What is up, YouTube? It's Kingfisher745, and the Rocket Raccoon movie alternate has been released. But first, of course, before we can buy it, we have to defeat his simulator challenges. This is going to net us our second punch on our Guardian membership card, and it also will permanently unlock the Rocket Raccoon movie alternate costumes so that you can buy them whenever you have the CP. Now, I think that most of these challenges are pretty easy, but if you're having trouble on that final task, well, don't worry, we're going to cover it. Your level of Rocket Raccoon probably won't matter that much, at least until the final two. I believe they recommend at least a level 6, but I do have a max level rocket. So anyways, as we get started, I'm going to try to give you as many extra tips as I can. As we begin, there are of course 5 challenges, and the first one starts out with a solo fight. Then there's going to be multiple enemies and certain stipulations which kick in. But first things first, we have to do them in order, so we'll begin with that solo fight. The default costume for Rocket of course is a blaster, and you're going to face a bruiser. So that means they're once again taking it very easy on us, and this is exactly like with Drax facing an infiltrator first. Truthfully, I know you don't need any help with this one, but we have to do them in order. Also, I'm OCD and I want to include all the challenges, so I can't skip any. I mean, something terrible might happen if I do. So what I did for this was I used a Murdered You, and then we got a collateral damage proc, and we won. Then moving on to challenge number 2, this time we're going to be facing multiple enemies, and I do believe it's only going to be 2 henchmen. One of them is going to be a bruiser, and one will be a tactician. This means Rocket can gain focused attacks by hitting the bruiser, but he will give the tactician an extra turn. Luckily, they aren't too difficult, they both have less than 4k HP. What I like to do is start out with a BLAM BLAM BLAM, and then that's going to be the end of our turn. When I click reload, you are going to notice that I gain back health, and that brings us to our first major tip. You can place the sympathetic EISO on Rocket Raccoon, and this is kind of similar to Drax, in that you're going to use reload every turn, and it counts as a buff, therefore you gain back health. That steady return of health can really make the difference in some of these challenges. The other EISO I'm using of course is the Explosive Empowered ISO 8, and that gives us collateral damage. But you can feel free to use any other EISO in its place. Now moving on to the third challenge, this is where the hazards begin. The enemy is going to regain health each round, and they do recommend that you're at least a level 2. I would think that you want to be a higher level than that, but there is a way to defeat this guy. I think that most of you know the best AISO or Augmented ISO 8 to put on Rocket is the Ionizing Augmented ISO 8. If you place this on his level 1, BLAM, then you're going to gain radiation exposure every time you fire it. If you have trouble doing a ton of damage right away, then just try to put debuffs and dots on this battle armor. So first off, I'm putting Pyrophoric, then I'm going to have to reload, then after this, if you don't have a lot of upfront damage, then you can just keep firing BLAM and place radiation exposure on him. Since my damage is pretty high at this point, after firing a BLAM, I'm going to use a Murdered You. With the Pyrophoric and the extra damage, my Murdered You is going to finish this armor. But let me tell you, there is a drawback to having very low health and very high attack on Rocket. The next challenge could present a problem, and then the final one definitely will. Now I do end up taking my Rocket into the next challenge exactly how he is, but then I'll tell you exactly what I did for the final task. Now this next one is called Stay Nimble for a reason, and you are recommended to have a level 6. At that level you unlock BLAM BLAM BLAM, and what happens is, besides placing Pyrophoric, you also gain Nimble. They also talk about ammo conservation. But anyways, I'll show you exactly what I did. Oh, and by the way, I never fire my level 9, not a single time in any of these challenges. I am going to take their tip to heart, and we do start out with a BLAM BLAM BLAM. As you can see, this gives Rocket a buff called Nimble, and it says 50% chance to avoid melee and ranged attacks. If this helps us dodge anything, then it's definitely worth it. After we use this ability, we're out of ammo, and we have to use reload. Then the enemy elites are going to use Snipe, so the first one does hit us, and the second one is dodged. At this point I'm going to use all of my ammo and fire BLAM. The reason for this is because it will trigger Pyrophoric, and also place radiation exposure. After 3 shots of this, the enemies are going to be very low on health, and then the dots will finish them off. You may have to go through another round, but it shouldn't be too much of a problem. You can fire 3 more BLAMs, and that should hopefully be the end of them. After this, we'll be moving on to the final challenge, and it is by far the longest. I think it might take as long as the first 4 combined. But hey, this is the only step standing between us and the Rocket Movie Alt. For this one, they also recommend level 6, but you want to have as high of a Rocket Raccoon as possible. The hazard says the enemies have reinforced armor. Let me tell you, when they say that, they aren't kidding. For this challenge, I do recommend you resocketing your Rocket Raccoon. This time around, I went with Robust, and that's health, stamina, and attack. That extra health and stamina definitely comes in handy. The reason for this is because the Ice Shapers have something called Deep Freeze. They are immune to all damage, but this can be removed with Melt Armor. By the way, they are also vulnerable to fire. Rocket happens to have Melt Armor on his level 2 Murdered You. So in order to really damage these enemies, you're going to have to use that level 2 first. My Rocket's health and stamina has taken a jump, and that's because I added 4 times Robust ISO 8. If you want to know my exact ISO 8 setup, I have 4 Robust, 2 Strong, a Violent, and a Steady. The other 4 were already in place, I only added the Robust after. After first using our level 2, I use a BLAM BLAM BLAM. That way we can set them up with Pyrophoric, and also my Rocket gains Nimble. So now with a BLAM, we make Pyrophoric Flames pop, and we also have quite a few debuffs on him. Then we reload because we want to have some ammo going into the second wave, and with this turn I'm actually going to use Recharge. Since we're only facing one enemy, and he has a number of debuffs, I want to get my stamina back to full, or at the least as close as I can get it. Basically what I'm telling you is use that first wave to get set up for the second. Once here I started with the Murdered You, and then I did focus on the middle target, but it really doesn't matter which one you hit first. We gained a collateral damage proc, which was very lucky, and then I'm going to use Reload. Now hopefully we can gain some dodges because we still have Nimble left over from the first wave. However, after this round it is going to wear off, and that's when you're going to want to use BLAM 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 once again. So we begin our turn with that level 6, and this is going to place Pyrophoric on all the enemies, and give us Nimble. After that, believe it or not, I'm going to reload again. With a little luck and quite a bit of damage, we're going to try to take out 2 of these Ice Shapers next turn. With our 50% chance to evade melee attacks, and also our generosity giving us some HP back, we should be able to make it through these enemy attacks. The first 2 do hit us, but then the third one luckily misses. Now with our 4 ammo, I'm going to start by using a Murdered You on the bottom Ice Shaper. This places Melt Armor, and gives us a collateral damage proc. At this point, 2 of the enemies are opened up, and we can go ahead and use BLAM. Each shot can proc Pyrophoric, and place radiation exposure. So now 2 of the enemies are gone, and we only have 1 remaining. It's very easy to manage 1 enemy, so we should be fine from here on out. With our first attack, we apply Melt Armor, and then we can go ahead and hammer away at the final enemy. Let's go ahead and just use 3 BLAMs, mainly because you can see how much damage that Pyrophoric can do. To be honest with you, there's probably another approach where you can place Pyrophoric on all the enemies, and then just use BLAM after BLAM. Basically what I'm saying is I'm sure there's another way to beat this, but this is exactly how I managed to beat it, and I beat it relatively fast. I'll be completely honest with you, this was my second attempt only, and all I did differently was add those 4 times Robust ISO 8. That's health, stamina, and attack. But anyways, that's going to be it for Rocket Raccoon Sim. We get another punch on our Guardian membership card, and after we leave the simulator, we're going to unlock the Guardian Rocket Raccoon uniform for purchase. Like I said at the beginning, once you unlock it, it's permanently available for purchase. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at it, what it does, and also its CP cost. And by the way, we did get our second punch on our Guardian membership card, and we only have 2 more to go. That of course is going to be Gamora and Groot. But enough of that, let's see the Guardian Rocket Raccoon uniform. It comes in a Blaster class for 50 CP, and it also comes in Generalist. That's going to cost you 65 CP. Then the passive is called Nowhere to Run. Successful attacks by Guardians of the Galaxy are guaranteed to be critical hits. Now I know some people aren't too thrilled with this, but I'll tell you where I'm really excited about it. Whenever our agent becomes an honorary Guardian, just think of all the possibilities. I for one am going to love the fact that my agent's attacks are going to always crit. First off, just think of all the weapons that have deadly crits. Then my Hand of Apocalypse always critting, that's going to be insane. So I for one am happy about this, and I'll be much happier whenever I get the Guardian insignia. For now, I am going to buy both of these costumes, starting with the Blaster. Then I'm going to unlock the Generalist last because we're going to equip it. Just like with Drax, we're going to have to continue this video, and I will show you it in action, along with both Drax and his movie alt, and Star-Lord. So make sure you stay tuned for that video, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Lastly, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and ask you to please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, good luck, and take care.